It's finally here, boys. Casio has done it. A digital watch with a steel case and decent water resistance. I mean, it's only taken them half a century. It's way cheaper than the steel G-Shocks and better looking than their flawed A1000 range as well. Only problem is, it's not actually a Casio. Yeah, if you zoom in a bit, no, a bit more. There you go. You can see it's clearly not a Casio, despite the appearance. This is the Armitron Rubik, the Casio killer we've all been waiting for, or at least it seems that way on paper. Not only does this have improved specifications, but surprisingly, it's from a brand with respectable history. Armitron was founded in 1975, just 1 year after Casio released their first digital wristwatch. They capitalized on the quartz crisis, achieving wide recognition in the US during the 1980s, often due to collaborations with various American sports teams and athletes. I'm gonna be honest with you, Yanks, I haven't heard of any of them. Apologies. Armitron still primarily operates in the States, so if you live internationally, you're gonna have to ship them overseas. Here in the UK, I did just that, and I not only bought this piece, but two others as well. Those being the Rogue, which is a second Casio lookalike, as well as one of their analog models, which looks a bit like a cheap Rolex Explorer. They were all in the £43 to £48 range, or about $55, though they can be had much cheaper depending on your location. I'll affiliate link them in the video description to help you track them down. We'll mainly focus on the digitals today, as I'm keen to find out how these really compare to those classic Casios. Those old guard models, they really are overdue a refresh. Timex released an alternative a few years back, but that had fundamental flaws which ruled it out. Since then, outside of direct Casio ripoffs, there really hasn't been much to gnaw on. Hopefully these can step in and fill that void, let's see. Right after this message from our sponsor, Carl Friedrich. I've been using Carl Friedrich products religiously since I featured them on my fashion channel back in 2019, mainly because they look beautiful and the quality is outstanding. This year, I vowed to stop buying junk products in general and to prioritize durable, long-lasting goods when I can, just like their luxury Palissy Slim briefcase. This is made of premium Italian Vachetta leather, is available in 4 colors, and is built in a family-run factory in Tuscany. It's supple yet thick and durable, with a natural finish that ages beautifully over time. Some of the largest leather goods YouTubers have cut this bag apart and praised its quality versus fashion brands that sell for thousands. Its standout features include the Rakanyi zipper. Honestly, I've never ever felt a zip this smooth before. It truly is a joy to use. There's also the metal studs which prevent the base from being damaged on rough surfaces like pavement, as well as an included detachable strap, allowing you to redeploy the Palissy as a shoulder bag for easier carrying. Importantly, it isn't just product quality that you get with Carl Friedrich, it's the full picture. They've got fast worldwide shipping, excellent customer support, a lifetime warranty, and most importantly, a 100-day trial period, allowing you to get a full refund if you choose to return the item within 100 days of purchase. The leather tones perfectly coincide with the most popular wristwatch straps as well, so you're covered if you're after something that will fit neatly in your collection. That includes other stylish accessories like wallets, passport holders, key organizers, desk mats, and more, which also come in perfectly matching colorways. Discover your next lifelong accessory at Carl Friedrich via the link in the video description. Armitron's packaging is better than most Casios. Whether you receive a tin or a box, you'll have an unboxing experience that at least doesn't feel super cheap. Let's quickly cover the obvious first, the visual similarities. Of course, these look like Casio digitals. You've got matching colors and shapes across the board, though they aren't exact clones. The Rubik resembles the Casio A158 with its angular shape, standard lugs, and blue accents, with the most similar aspect being the line around the perimeter. From square on, the likeness is quite uncanny, though in motion, you'll immediately notice a divergence in the case finishing and shape. The Rubik is chunkier, more in line with the larger Casio A168 illuminator. You know, the one with the fancy backlight? Yeah, that's the one. It's at 34mm in diameter, with a thickness of 9.1mm and a lug-to-lug of 38.9. Given its squared profile, it wears a tad larger than those measurements indicate, though it's still pretty compact. Armitron has these listed as 39mm on their site, but I really can't figure out how they've got that measurement, as even with the pushers, it's only just over 37mm wide. Maybe they just quoted the lug-to-lug measurement for some reason. It's certainly unconventional. Either way, small and average wrists are going to have no problems, and given that this is a little bit larger than some of those Casio I mentioned before, even bigger wrists might be okay. As mentioned earlier, unlike the resin Casio, this one is made of stainless steel. It doesn't just beat them in terms of durability, but aesthetics too, as the Rubik has a simple brushed finish that perfectly matches the stock bracelet, something that seems to be absent from all Casio budget digitals, where the high shine cases tend to clash really badly with the brush bands that they use. The rear of the Armitron feels way more solid too. They advertise a 5-bar water resistance for this Rubik. While it only has a snapback, it still one feels far more secure than the rudimentary rears on the Casios. Despite the curvature, the Rogue is similarly proportioned to the Rubik, with the same diameter and lug-to-lug dimensions, though this one is a fraction slimmer at just 8.9mm. I'd say it's closest in shape to the Casio B640, but it is slimmer and wider, resulting in what I think is a far sexier overall appearance. The Rogue has more of a satin brushing effect, as well as high-shine chamfered edges above the pushers, which are pretty classy for a digital watch. Whichever case style you prefer, both will last better than the resin Casios, which always tend to develop numerous bumps and scratches that can be quite noticeable. Another upgrade comes by way of the bracelet. While these aren't a huge improvement over the notoriously jangly ones fitted to most super budget Casios, I'd say they are a bit more substantial. Small asterisk here, which I'll get onto in a moment. The Rubik has one that looks just like the one on the A158 or A168 with a slide clamp mechanism. Again, it's got cheap folded links, but they are thicker, and the clasp feels much stronger too, though often the range of adjustment with these slide clamp mechanisms seems to be the width of the links, so you are going to be somewhat limited still. I probably prefer that on the Rogue, which instead has like a 70s vibe and much more flexible construction, meaning it is more comfortable on wrist. With this one, you can also make those finer adjustments to the clasp, so finding the perfect fit will be quicker and easier. Also, the smaller holes on the rear, those holes that go between each of the link segments, they just make it less likely that your hairs will get trapped, which is something that's often overlooked. Unfortunately, I did have some trouble with this component. The first unit I received immediately detached from the bracket holding the spring bar in place. It came off so cleanly that it was obviously never installed correctly, so I returned that watch for a replacement, and the new one has had no such issues. I'm unsure how common this error is, so when you receive yours, I'd certainly just give it a quick check to make sure there's no fault. Both of these bracelets are plenty long enough to accommodate a wide variety of wrist sizes, and they can each be changed for alternative 18mm straps if you want. I guess another boon of this steel construction is that you can afford to put quite a bit of pressure on the watch when changing the straps, which is something you can't really do on those resin Casios without risk of the lugs clean snapping off. Aside from the matte finish cases, one of the other reasons I think these tend to look better than some of the Casios is the pushers. You'll notice the Armitrons have 4, leaving you with a fairly symmetrical look, whereas most Casios have a vacant slot in at least one corner, which just looks less balanced, almost like one has fallen off or been forgotten. There's no doubt this 4-pusher arrangement looks better, especially for those of you who like to wear your watch on your right arm, where the empty slot would normally be exposed near to your hand. Also, this opens up possibilities when it comes to functions. Now, I will say Casio has always done a good job of making their watches extremely intuitive. Within seconds, you are always up and running, even if you're a dummy like me. 4 buttons, in theory, should give even more flexibility, but some brands have really messed this up, like the Timex Digital I mentioned earlier. Even after weeks of trying, basically, I still couldn't figure that interface out. Thankfully, Armitron hasn't pulled a similar stunt, and they've kept it all nice and simple. Bottom left cycles through the modes, bottom right is the light, top right is the stop-start, while top left is the reset button. Even a newborn could probably operate these watches. There's the ever-present stopwatch feature and alarms for you to play around with. A refreshing addition is the second time zone mode, which allows you to monitor the time in a location of your choosing. I wish I'd realized this last month, because I would have taken one of these on my trip to Germany rather than the Casio A700. So far, so good. As you might imagine though, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Yeah, there is one obvious shortcoming. The nightlight. Yeah, this is a sidelight system comparable to the old school F91, and I think the results speak for themselves. These really need to be upgraded to something like a simple LED panel like that on the Casio A168 for them to even be any sort of selling point at all. You can probably just about read the time, or at least the left half of it, but visibility isn't great. In a similar vein, the viewing angles on these displays are slightly worse than most Casios. If you look closely, the digits themselves seem to cast a small shadow on the backdrop. Luckily, this one isn't really significant enough to impact the experience. In fact, the display is sharp and clear in most circumstances, and the typeface is legible too. Battery life and quality control are also something I can't really comment on yet. Maybe when we see a lot more reviews coming out, we'll get a better picture for that. If you can get these at a decent price, and so long as the bracelet is secure, I'd certainly recommend giving these Casio killers a shot. They're both affiliate linked below. I would definitely take either of these over a Casio A1000, no doubt about that. I'll probably look at their analog watch at some point too, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one. And for more digital options, check out the video on screen now, where I run through all the best Casios versus one another. Are they as good as these? Probably not, but some of them are like super slim and they've got other gimmicky features that might be worth looking at.